Hello and welcome back to Hudson Auto Films. You join me on another cold English winter day. Unfortunately, I have no heat in here, which makes me really wish I had bought some of the brand new Hudson Auto Films merchandise. Couldn't help it, had to plug it. This Christmas, give a child a gift. I'm that child. No, but on a serious note, lots of you had asked, can I create something more tangible to help support the channel? And so that's what I've done. A bunch of nice little things, all very simple, things that I'd wear around the workshop. We're not a high-end fashion brand yet, but all the clothes, high quality, eco-friendly, and stuff I would wear. We've got mugs, we've got t-shirts, we've got hoodies, we've got a bag, and caps. So all the essentials you need in a workshop. You know, especially the mugs, because when there's no heat, you have to go through a lot of tea. So the link is in the description or up here, it's somewhere, you'll find it. Please consider supporting the channel by buying something. Don't worry if not, all profits from the merchandise go straight into the channel, the cars. It's funny, this whole process, you start making videos and then you have people watching them and there's suddenly this pressure to have a higher quality of everything. You know, when I made this channel, I was just messing around. But any revenue made by the merchandise will go into things like new microphones. I need to get better audio consistency, car parts, so we can have more episodes. So ultimately, at this stage, all it means is I can make more consistent and higher quality videos for you. And I love doing that. I can't lie. It's also absolutely for me. I love making YouTube videos and it's really fun. And I'd like to keep doing it, and I'd like to one day be in the position to do it a lot more. Obviously right now I have to rely on a grown-up job rather than just, you know, buggering around with cars, but that's the dream, isn't it? Anyway, enough waffle. Please consider checking out the store and buying something. But regardless, let's get on. If you didn't catch the last episode, we bent our already bent chassis back into place. Without a doubt, it was quite an interesting maneuver. Health and safety was somewhere in the background, really far in the background, but it worked. Right now, our chassis is sitting rather beautifully on our wooden jig. It is level. On the right-hand chassis leg, where there is very little metal, as it had been lifted up many times over the years with the forklift, the front had bowed down, and as a result, it wasn't going back into place. We leveled it initially, and it was still sitting like that on our jig, so it actually overbent it. So we had to overbend it the other way to get it flat. Now it's sitting very nice. As I look at it, I can't quite believe it's so perfect. Not only that, but we managed to get the whole car within 1 degree horizontally across the whole car from front to back, which is a really good tolerance. These cars were made on massive jigs. They certainly didn't have digital levels and all that sort of thing, I don't think. I highly doubt it. And yeah, so we feel quite pleased that we've managed to get it within such a small tolerance, and maybe possibly even better than factory. Lots of you commented very interesting things about tolerances in the last video, how that's probably better than factory and all sorts of things they did at the time, which were quite questionable. So I certainly feel good in the progress we made last week. But today, even more important day, we are bracing the car. Not only are we bracing the car in a traditional sense in the main cabin area, boot area, but we're also bracing the chassis. So what that means is we actually have to recreate the wooden jig out of steel. We initially made it out of wood purely to test the method and see if any right could be done by the chassis. And that was very successful, which is great. But now we need to recreate that out of steel and actually weld it to the chassis so it maintains its form. We're going to be putting it on a rotisserie, so obviously that, you know, puts all sorts of strain on the car in ways that it's not meant to. So that's why you have to brace it up. So we'll be bracing the chassis in its perfect position, bracing the cabin, bracing just about anything we can, bracing the roof in its correct height. So it's going to be a little bit of a skeleton all over the place, but I think it's a really important and exciting stage because for the first time in a long time, the car will actually be rigid and safe and square and fixed in that position, which means we can continue and start cutting things out, adding new metal with the confidence that we are adding it into a straight car. So yeah, it's an exciting stage. But what we have to do now is move the car out of the barn onto the trailer back to my house because right now we have no power here, which means welding is near impossible. So first thing I need to do is I need to strap this wooden frame to the chassis using ratchet straps so it kind of retains some of its form. It doesn't matter too much because it's not going to overbend like it did before because it's being kept on all four wheels. We need to get it back and we do all sorts of remeasuring on the chassis. We can get to work bracing the car up. So I hope you enjoy and let's take it away. So, for those of you who are curious in the last episode, as the light unfortunately was appalling, so I apologise for that. This is how level we got it on the jig. So you can see this area is very good. That is where the chassis gives up completely, but if you look, you can see the back side of it is sitting on there. So we are pretty straight. The only area on this side I'm a bit uncomfortable with is how the rail raises a few mil. I don't know if I'm being too pedantic or what really, but yeah, we're in a position where we can get things perfect, so why not? The other rail, on the other hand, sits dead level across the whole thing. So when you see one dead level, you want the other side dead level as well, obviously. So that's also what we'll do today. We'll get everything perfect. We got everything most of the way there last time, but we'll get it on the metal frame, the metal jig, and just dial it in so it is perfect. So lots of fun to be had today. Obviously not going to strap this too much. Even though it's supporting this, most of the pressure cause is pulling it together. So I don't actually want to do too much because then I'll bow the chassis inwards, which is not good. If you're wondering why the trailer is disconnected, it's to allow our incredibly low car and even lower chassis jig to be able to pass onto the trailer. So I'm not just being a menace. I have to say, daylight doesn't really do her any favours. I've always been a little bit embarrassed by this trailer. It's very functional but not pretty, but suddenly next to the Aston it's looking pretty concourse. I was just the other side of the land and I looked across at the trailer and I couldn't see a car on it, and I thought, oh, has it rolled off or something? I realised the car was there. There's so little of it. You hear of cars when they say it looks good 10 feet away. This doesn't exist 10 feet away. I've never known a car quite like it, but you know, we're all about firsts on this channel, I suppose. So she is strapped up and ready to go, and I had a little bit of a workshop clean out. Took advantage of the brief interim and it looks all right. It won't look all right for long because this is coming straight back after it's braced, but you know, good to keep on top of things. So the first thing we're doing is we are recreating our wooden jig out of steel. We're going to make that, then weld it to the chassis so the chassis is locked in place. As you can see, Isaac is back with us today after popular demand.
Are you with me now, Charlie?
Okay, so we're about ready to start welding up the jig. So, like we mentioned before, it's identical to the wooden jig, except for much more rigid and metal. So, better in every way. Isaac has kindly, what's the word you cleverly used?
Just Shamford.
Shamford?
Yeah.
Shamford?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, it's a chamfer.
Isaac has shampooed the edge of this.
Chamfer.
Isaac has done a chamfer.
Yeah.
To aid penetration, so the weld will sit nicely and a bit more flat, which is good. So we've just got to get welding. So we're going to tack it up and go from there.
Nice and square.
Nice and square. Let me check.
Works.
Yeah. Square still. Sorry.
1065 divided by 2.
Speaking in tongues, I think. So, we have done some welds and we are just going to take them down to see how bad they are.
And to make them look good.
This one, as you can see, I did. It's very high and very pedestrian, but it's straight-ish. So, and that's better than most of mine, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so Charlie's gone for a second. So we welded the frame up. We've knocked back the welds so they're sort of flush with the surface, and then we want to make sure that the frame is like not twisted. So we're going to do that by we'll run a bit of string from each corner, and when they cross in the middle, if they're separated, you can tell that you've got a corner that's high or low. And then from there we'll know basically. So I'm going to clamp the string across each corner and then we'll see where we're at basically. We've put the string across each corner here. Like that, and unbelievably, right in the middle, they're just touching. If I tap it here, you can see that they're only just meeting in the middle, which is perfect. Unbelievable almost, really. But you can see this beam here, there's a gap between the string, which means that this is low here. But actually that doesn't matter because we're not referencing off this at all. This is just holding these two beams apart, which are the ones that are important as to whether they're twisted or not. So actually we've done well on that. I'm pleased. I'm just waiting for Charlie to get back now.
It's what?
It's flat.
Bloody hell.
They said it couldn't be done.
But it's been done.
It's been done.
So, as Isaac has informed you, I'm sure, it is miraculously perfect, which is excellent. So now we are continuing to repeat the process we did last week, or 2 weeks ago, and getting the whole chassis level. But this time we'll actually be welding it to the chassis so it is a permanent feature, well, throughout the restoration. Whereas last time, as we've explained, it was a temporary version to really just see if it was even possible to get this chassis to be true again. So yeah, that's what we're doing. You want to come back a bit? Nice. Yeah, perfect. I have to also wire the chassis a bit.
Yeah.
So Isaac has just gone along and got our jig completely flat with the front cross member, which is excellent.
So let's
Keep lifting her up. Well, should we check how we're sitting on the chassis everywhere?
Chassis,
Nice.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like actually a bump in the chassis cross member.
Well, it's touching at the front,
Yeah.
it's touching at the back,
Yeah.
and it's pretty flat all the way through the middle, apart from where I can stick my shoe into the frame.
Yeah. And that area is just a little bit of a...
Yeah, that's been hit for like a speed bump or something.
Yeah, but that's fine.
It's all
Flat across.
flat across, which we like. It's what we want.
That's what we need. So we've just done the levelling again across the whole car. What is our range
0.6.
to?
No, 0 to 0.6.
Okay, so we're even tighter than we were last time. Okay, so...
The frame's more rigid as well.
Yeah, so, wow. So we're within, yeah. So we range from 0 to 0.6 of a degree across the width of the car.
Yeah.
So we're pretty damn straight. And I'll show you our final resting place for the chassis rails. So here's our jig, sitting nicely. As you can see, that's the speed bump, so that's not important, but we're sitting pretty perfectly across the whole chassis. That is where the chassis gives up. So this is our front cross member. As you can see, we did have a big gap here. We only have it a tiny bit just beyond, well, it's the cross member, I think, disrupting it. So, because the cross member's a bit bumpy. But that's perfect. Then this side is perfect, and this rail is just kind of exquisitely sitting. You know, you can see obviously that it gives up a little bit at the back, but it's pretty damn good. So we have a very straight chassis. Would you say that, Isaac, we have a very straight chassis?
I reckon.
Nice, well that means yes in Isaac language. Okay, so all the measuring has been done. Now it's time to weld our frame to the chassis.
Hooray!
Yay! So let's do it.
Yeah. Do you want to lie down first?
Oh yeah, I've got to lie down first. The metal is very thin on the chassis rail.
Just looking at the lovely lady. Oh, that sounds a bit better.
So, Isaac has gone home and I have been just intensely welding our jig to the chassis. I've gone way overboard, but I prefer to go overboard than not do enough. And the final step of that is I'm going to weld some tabs which bridge the chassis and the jig together, so they'll kind of sit across, just as a last precaution. It's quite late, but I'm having fun, so I'm going to do it. So this is the piece of metal in question, just a bit of scrap metal. but I'm going to cut these bits off and cut some other nice straightish bits off. Obviously how straight they are isn't important at all, but cut it off, clean them up, and then weld them. I'm not using flat pieces, obviously, just for rigidity factors. You know, I just was thinking about when we turn the car that way, so like that. I was thinking this would just make it a little bit stronger, which is nice. The more strength, the better. So I'm going to do that, and we'll get it welded on. So here we have our bits. Now I'm just going to clean them up and then clean the chassis up and weld them on. Shiny, shiny. So it is yet another day. I welded long into the night, and now in theory the car is as strong as it is going to be, I hope. As you saw, I welded the whole jig on and then did the support brackets. Now it's the moment of truth. I'm going to take it off the jacks and lower it back onto its wheels. There is so much weld in this that there is no way it's going to separate, but it's still, I don't know, I still feel anxious. It probably only needed a few tacks here and there to hold it on, but I've literally just welded the whole thing, so, you know, but you can't be too careful. Let's lower it down and roll it out of the garage. So in theory, if everything has gone to plan, there should be no real twisting as it goes down, because the jig should be holding everything in place. As you saw when we were lifting it up and messing around with the jacks before, the whole body was doing all of that. So in theory, nothing should really contort as this goes down, I think, I hope. So let's do it. So here she is. Apologies for any wind. I'm sure it's partly psychological, but it does look pretty damn straight now. I know the roof is being held in just by a piece of steel resting there, but you can see our frame. See it under there, the tabs. One interesting point which I've immediately noticed, which is obvious, but it's really quite cool to see. Before, if you put any pressure inside the cabin, the whole thing would wobble, and it was quite scary. So, you know, when I was in the back trying to work on the brakes, the whole body would be bowing, and just even if you just pushed your hand on the car, the whole thing would just be twisting and going nuts. And I'll show you what it's like now. Now the whole thing moves as one. Apart from the roof, obviously that's wobbly, but the whole car is one again, which is nuts. And that was a lot of force. I know it didn't look like it, but it was. So there we have it. As you can probably hear, there is a huge storm going on right now, and well, the barn doesn't feel like it's going to blow away, but it feels like it should. I'm just looking at the V8 Vantage outside, which has got a cover on it, and it's, well, looks like this. But I'm going to continue cracking on with bracing the red Aston, but I think that's a wrap for today, because like most things do, everything took a lot longer than expected. But I feel really accomplished. The car is straight, it is rigid. You know, I wasn't totally sure it could be done without chopping the chassis legs off and just all that sort of thing. But we've done it, so that's good. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please like, share, subscribe, all of that sort of thing. Check out the merch, check out the Patreon. And yeah, I'll see you in the next episode where we'll either be working on the V8 Vantage or bracing the rest of the Aston DBS. But until then, take care and have a lovely Christmas.